Hi there, this is Bo.
And this is Jerry.
And this is Don't Insult My Intelligence.
It's the podcast that questions, challenges, and exposes things that just insult our intelligence.
And those things can come from anywhere. Politics, society, music, movies, television, wherever.
Yep, and we're going to talk about it all. And in most cases, it's probably going to piss some people off. Parents, be warned that this podcast is not for kids. It's PG-13 at best and a hard R at most other times.
A little background. Jerry and I have been friends since high school, and we've always thought and lived a little outside of the norm, and we generally push the edge on most topics.
Mm-hmm. And when we were young, Bo's dad, when he would bust us doing stuff, as dads will do, when we tried to argue any kind of BS explanation to him, he would just stop and stare us straight in the face and just say, "Don't insult my intelligence."
Yeah, that was one of his most frequent sayings, so we heard that quite a bit growing up.
So we thought it'd make a great podcast concept, and here it is.
So here we go.
Don't insult my intelligence.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about meat.
Yay.
And yes, Jerry's favorite subject. And quite literally, when I think about it, my favorite thing to eat. And I know it's yours, Jerry.
Oh, yeah.
And what we're going to talk about today is really, don't insult my intelligence. Meat is not bad for you.
Because it's not.
Yes, and that is a controversial topic, and folks believe it wholeheartedly, and there's good reasons for why they believe that. And it's just like the reason some people believe the earth is flat. It's bad science and ignorance and just kind of accepting things without really thinking about it. You know, what do you think?
Yeah, no. That's all true. I mean, I'm not going to compare it to flat Earth because, I mean, I can at least see some fundamental value in the original assessment of this, where I can't find any value in flat Earth. But that being said, it is shoddy. It is shoddy scientific work and methods to have come up with this thought process, but
right,
yeah, but no, I mean and that's just like we were saying earlier when we were talking. That's the powers that be, and then the population of the world, being the sheep that they are, have fallen right into line with it.
Right. So when you think about it, folks in general believe if you eat a bunch of meat, if you eat a bunch of, red meat, that it's going to give you a heart attack, and it's going to make your cholesterol high.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And really, when you look at it, so I'm sitting here looking at a website, modernscience.net, and I'm looking at what is meat. Right.
Okay.
So meat, it's 75% water. So 75% of it is water.
Right.
Water is not bad for you.
No.
So the main ingredient in meat is water.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
So then 20% of it is protein. So 75% water, 20% protein.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 95% water and protein.
Right.
95%.
Yeah.
Protein is good for you.
Well, yes, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and say this now before anybody starts kicking feedback in, because any argument, and let's be honest, any argument someone throws out, whether it's a vegetable versus meat versus anything else, most everything that's natural that you consume is going to be the large percent of it water. Everything.
Oh, right. Yeah. I mean,
so if you want to argue spinach over beef, well, guess what? both of them are the majority of the consistency of it is going to be water.
Sure.
So let's put everybody on equal footing right now when it comes to the water thing. So,
right. And then the other 5% is carbohydrates and assorted proteins.
Right.
And other proteins.
Sure.
That are in there.
Right.
And that's it. So I'm not seeing what's bad that's in it. Right?
And this I don't know the answer to, but I'm curious on it, is for people who just, refuse to acknowledge meats of any type of value and protein, which I don't know how you can do that. I mean, I guess I could see where you could say the cholesterol portion of it is still bad for you, which it's pretty much, it's really not. But I can see where you might be pulling that. But yeah. I mean, the deal is with for vegetarians, all right, I guess where I get irritated is for whatever their reasons for being that way, right? If it's an issue of nutrition, right, and solely nutrition, that's where I have the problem. Because any animal protein, right, that you're going to get, any animal protein, most of the amino acids you need are there. Where if you're going to go off of any type of plant life,
right,
it's not. You are lacking essential amino acids. I mean, that's a fact. Yeah. So I do want to stress that. I'm sure that there'll be we'll be getting people jumping out of the woodwork of why they're a vegetarian or a vegan or a vegan or whatever you want to call it. But when it comes to this, I want to, at least for me, I'm focusing solely on the nutritional benefits of it. Is that fair to say? Is that
sure?
I mean, I'm not going on to the whole animal cruelty thing. It's like whatever. That's a whole different topic. But the point of it is that we've been told that it's bad. Okay, and weirdly enough, I'm talking about all animal proteins. Weirdly, red meat has gotten the worst of the stigma, right? Would you say that's fair? I mean, I don't think people equate fish or chicken or turkey like they do to pork and absolutely to red meat, which it's bullshit. Because red meat is awesome for you.
Well, yeah, and the thing is I think, and where we're going here is we're not just throwing this out there and saying, okay, the end, meat is not bad for you, bye. So really, what it appears to have been done in the late 60s, early 70s is a couple different highly publicized studies that, upon review, were done very, very poorly from a scientific standpoint.
Right.
And the way that you are supposed to do experiments, right? So, and there's two big examples that people point to, but as it turns out, there's hundreds and hundreds of examples that are not publicized, that just people aren't made aware of because it doesn't confirm the results that the nutrition industry is looking for.
Right.
So that's kind of where you have to start. So the nutrition industry really didn't exist before the 60s. And it really came to be because of advertising dollars. So people wanted products to be advertised, and you had to have something behind them.
Right.
Because, it's just kind of part of the American culture, at least, because, when cigarettes first came out, there was like, hey, these are good for you.
Right.
There was this health thing that was real called PEP. And people thought PEP was a real thing, like you're peppy.
Right.
You're not lethargic. And what it ended up being is you're just on stimulants. So,
right, exactly.
But people think, they got to have something to market things by. So one of the big things they point to, and we're going to be talking about the work of this one researcher, Nina Teicholz, who wrote this book a couple years ago called The Big Fat Surprise. And the synopsis of the book is, hey, guess what? Fat doesn't make you fat, right? Butter, meat, cheese don't cause heart disease. There's no proof that it actually causes heart disease.
Right.
And low fat is not a healthy thing. It's actually quite the opposite.
Right.
So, but it does kind of fall into the whole things in moderation are the way to do it. You do need a balanced diet. You need carbohydrates and fats and protein and minerals. And by doing that, it's so basic. It's one of these, everything you learned, you got right in kindergarten. It's that whole thing. You need fruits and vegetables and protein and carbohydrates.
That's right.
And, one of the things that you were already talking about, the best place, as it appears from science, to get your protein is from meat.
That's right. Red meat.
Yep. Right. Red meat. It seems to have the most in it. And the thing is another great point that Nina Teicholz make is really it's the bioavailability of the protein. That's what people often don't think about.
Right.
And, so bioavailability, right, is, do you know, I think you remember what that was, right? So you got a pound of broccoli and a pound of pork.
Right. So, yeah, basically, here's how you break it down. If you have, I think the example she gave was, let's say you're a vegetarian and you are going for spinach as your go-to for your protein.
Or iron. Right?
Or iron, correct.
Yeah. People eat spinach.
Right. So.
Well, there's protein in it too.
Right. But not like there is in red meat. So you're going for spinach let's say that's going to be your iron source. And it can be. But you're going to be eating spinach all day long, where you can go get a piece of red meat, and if it makes everybody feel better, I'll even go with like a fillet with very little fat on it. Okay,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, but I'm going to give everybody something so they can't really bitch right off the bat. I'm not going with ribeye, but so
fat's good for you.
It is good for you, and it tastes good too. But yes. But yeah, what it would take, and I don't even know how much spinach you would have to eat in a day to get the same amount of iron out of about 3 ounces of steak. And the other part, now not so much with the case of the vegetables, like in this case, the spinach, but one of the other things that is spoken about a lot is the fact that proteins in the way of animal proteins satiate your hunger a whole lot faster and more efficiently than other types of foods, basically carbohydrates. And that's true. That's a fact.
Right. That's one of the things. So it's kind of this whole piece where it's these pieces of a picture that put together. Why do we have these trends of bad health that kind of seem to center around meat? And it's kind of like a double fallacy, because we really don't have these bad. That's a false picture also, but just in general, what they're speculating is so there. Okay, sorry, to back up. There is no proof scientifically that meat causes high blood pressure, that meat causes high cholesterol, that meat causes all these things that historically we think promote heart disease.
Right.
That's the big thing. So, really, what it derives from is 2 big studies that were done that had major problems with them. The first was done. It's a pretty popular one. It was done by Harvard, and it's really like the summation of data of a lot of studies, where they looked at, and it was almost like it was the beginning of a study, and it didn't really get completely done. So they looked at people. So they did this thing. Sorry, and I need just the note on the. Oh man, closed it by accident. So they did. They had people do logs of what they ate. Okay, and that's called epidemiology. So it's when you have the subjects do their own kind of observation. Mm-hmm. So that right there is not a scientifically stable type of study. There's all kinds of error in that. But what that type of study is meant to generate ideas to go out and then do a rigorous scientific examination of.
Right.
It's like it's just like putting your toe in the water. Okay, let's see what people say they do, and let's see if there's some trends. But what happened was that they went and they collected a bunch of data, and then even when they went back themselves and tried to test that data, tried to validate that it was accurate, it didn't meet their own standards. Mm-hmm. So it kind of got pushed aside. But then somehow, some way, that study itself got published and out into the public and became what was based and became like the foundation of meat is bad for you and causes heart attacks.
Right.
It's kind of crazy.
I know.
So if you go back and look at it today, it has all these problems because number one, the sample size that they were using was not representative. You know, it was all like in either one gender or one area of the country or one, you know, it just wasn't a representative population. They didn't follow the people for very long, and they weren't using a controlled environment to collect the data. They were letting people just journal what they ate.
That's right.
You know, and people just, when they do that, people don't tell the truth.
Of course.
Or they make honest mistakes.
Right. Either way, I mean, you know, looking at, sure, the people, I'm not even going to put any kind of fault on the people. I mean, we're talking about scientists who they should know what they're doing in the way to conduct a proper experiment. I mean, come on.
Sure. And then there's another general problem in science, and I've quoted this one before, you know, that science moves forward slowly, one funeral at a time. Right.
Right.
So, and that is a real thing, and we've struggled with it forever since human beings started, since the scientific revolution, since the Greeks and the Romans and the Renaissance and everything. You know, folks, their ego and then sometimes their financial situation is dictated on the status quo.
Oh, absolutely.
And it is being in line with the status quo, and so. Either you're in fear of losing your life, you know, like Copernicus and Galileo. If you go against the socialized norms, you could be killed, or you could lose your patronage. You could lose your funding if you do something controversial.
Yep.
Or, and in this case, what's probably most applicable to the meat fallacy, like that I like to call it, is you lose your reputation. So for scientists, you know, in the political realm, there's this thing called flip-flopping, okay? Which to me is so stupid because people that are intelligent, they want to change their mind.
Right.
Like, it's the greatest thing in the world for you to have something that you believe to be true all of a sudden not be true. It's a wonderful thing to happen, you know, unless it's something like, oh, I'm married to someone, I thought they were a man or a woman, and it turns out they're the other. That might not be so great thing to find out, but it's still not a belief. But it's just like if you believe something to be true and then you see, oh my gosh, I was completely wrong. Personally, it's a wonderful thing, but professionally, it might not be that great, just the way our academic system works. So a lot of times you get these scientists that they suffer greatly, even though they're very smart and they've gone to Harvard, they're well accomplished, they've you know, done everything they had to do, but they still are not immune to confirmation bias.
Absolutely.
And that's what it really about.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I just, the whole, she makes points where, the
Nina
one,
Teichels.
yes, the one profession, like you said, especially the one profession where your ego should not get in the way, and you want to have your theories, have holes poked in them, is the world of science. I mean, that's the only way you're going to get to the truth. And
right.
With this, I mean, it's like, came up with some ideas, and then all of a sudden it's gospel. And it's like, and especially it's gospel based off of shoddy, experimentation. And, I don't know. And I guess it's irritating because, number one, they're doing it to something that's a huge building block for humanity, right?
Yep.
I mean, and two, because you're fucking with something I love, and that pisses me off. I mean,
exactly,
it's bullshit.
Well, and it's one of those. See, so a couple of things here. So back on the science piece, and then I want to get to kind of like a cultural thing.
Sure.
But so two things here, where so there was a lot of controversy, and in Nina's book, she kind of highlights in the early 70s where there were groups. And there were independent areas that kind of brought up, hey, these studies don't pass muster. They're not good science. They weren't controlled. They didn't have control groups. They didn't have the right kind of setting. They're all based on the patient's own logging of the data, and the ones that aren't are too small. So we need to retest some of these.
Right.
So the government spent millions and millions of dollars to go test some of these studies out in the early 70s. And they did actual controlled clinical trials where they gave, and it was done over 10,000 different participants. Mm-hmm. Now, they did it mostly, so the problem with this study is scientifically it's solid, but folks hid it away because the ethics of it weren't the greatest. Because they did the study on people that were in facilities, that were institutionalized.
Right.
Either they were crazy or they were, handicapped or disabled,
right,
and whatever.
Yeah, they had a group that they could control whether they wanted them to or not. Right. I mean,
yes,
sure.
And they had a large population also, and so they gave half of the people high-fat meat, cheese, butter diets, and the other half they did low-fat, no meat, vegetarian diets, right?
Right.
And then at the end of the study, and they followed these people, and they were not able to show that any of the people that were on the high-fat meat diets died more frequently of heart disease than the other group.
That's right.
So, so then there's that. So that didn't make the papers. It kind of got shuffled under the rug until the New York Times did a big article on it and said, hey, what's the deal? Why is this study not being, shown? Then there was another New York Times article pretty recently. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. It's New York Times Magazine, though, I think.
Okay.
But they talked about how in the early 70s there's this documented case where the sugar industry basically funded studies and influenced the scientists to show that sugar is actually not as bad for you as it truly is.
Right.
So they were trying to take the focus off of sugar being a big cause of high blood pressure,
right,
and unhealthiness and cancer and heart disease, and really say, hey, it's really not sugar, it's meat you should be thinking about. Remember meat, how bad meat is?
That's right.
So there's a well-documented case there that shows how the sugar lobby, controls, funds a lot of the industry to keep sugar looking good and meat looking bad.
Right. And just so everybody understands too, so you're not misinterpreting what's being said, if the sugar industry is not, they didn't pump money into this original study to make it that way. The study was there beforehand.
Right.
They just pumped money going, yeah, we buy into what you're saying. And, because we're nowhere near as bad as they are. And they're like,
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's that kind of thing. It's not like sugar created this.
Yep.
But no, sugar is horrible for you. Way worse than anything else that you
Pretty
eat.
much.
I mean,
So, yeah, I'm with you. Sugar is about, refined sugar is about as bad as it gets.
Yeah, it is.
But it is a fuel, and that's one of those other reasons why we gravitate toward it so much.
Well, that's true. But since you brought fuel up,
Yeah.
let's go off of again what is interesting with her books and what she has stated, and this is not from her, this is just an actual scientific fact, is the whole issue of the body, going toward glucose first to eat up
Right.
for energy. I mean, that's what it does. I mean, that's what's funny, man. Sugar, what sugar is to us, where it's like, ooh, it's like sugar. Well, once it gets inside of you, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, wow, glucose.
Sure.
Not fat. It's going after glucose because it's like candy. I mean, your body goes to that first and eats and swallows all of that up. I mean, and we can get into that too, where one of the whole things with that is the weight loss issue.
Right.
I mean, that boils down to, Atkins was crucified, for what he thought he had, devised as being a good diet. And he got beat to pieces for it. And in essence, I mean, and look, I'm not on his diet. I haven't studied his diet because I don't want to be on any damn diet. But when you look at what he did, I can understand why he came up with that. And fundamentally, that's true because the body's going to attack glucose first. If you don't have all those carbohydrates and all those refined sugars in your system, and what you have is the fat that you're getting from all basic animal proteins. Well, what happens is your body, that is going to eat that fat, and it's going to eat, that's where you lose your weight. It eats your own fat. That's why we have fat. That's why, I mean, we're lucky being humans that we have that ability. Some animals don't even have that ability, but we do. That's how we're made.
Yeah, and it's really, it goes back to that, evolutionary piece where, I mean, we go for glucose first because sugar was a rare thing.
Right.
It didn't used to be in everything. It was a very rarity. So you got some sugar, like, boom, going for that.
Sure.
And then, but that's your body's only, when that becomes the only fuel, your body kind of changes to where it doesn't look for your normal fat stores.
Right. Right.
It's waiting for more glucose because you've now trained it to wait on the glucose.
That's right. Exactly.
And the sugar, which it's going to get because it's in everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and just so everybody knows, so not to beat up on the sugar world, that holds true for most any carbohydrate that's going to turn into glucose. I mean, potatoes, pasta, all that stuff. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing potatoes or pasta, but
right.
But that's what the body does. I
mean, and that was the thing. Like those carbohydrates were also rare, because if you think about it, back when we were hunter gathering, or when we're cavemen, or when we're when the main way you went and hunted for your food, right? That was your main thing. You hunted for your food before we started farming and started growing big carbohydrates, and your carbohydrates were also rare. They were either in the meat, or they were like a wild vegetable you might find.
Right.
So you didn't have potatoes and breads growing and grain and mills and shit making bread. You had, you ate whatever you killed, gazelle or an antelope or a yak or a water buffalo or something.
Right.
Whatever you took down, or a mammoth.
Right.
And you ate that.
Or fruit. I mean, that's pretty much
fruit.
What you had.
That grew wild. That's what you ate, and that's the way our bodies really are designed to work at peak efficiency.
Absolutely.
So the thing is, you cannot ignore that. You know, you cannot ignore it. There is no argument against that history. And the people that have one, it's just the ones that's just wrong.
I know.
You know, you got here, you got here because your ancestors ate animals. You know,
right.
and we can get into the whole thing because I am okay. So now, maybe that's a good segue into a couple things.
Sure.
So a little bit back to the original bad science studies of the late 60s, early 70s, okay? One of the things that is clearly, if you look into the details of the things, that is clearly not there is what else were people eating? Because that's the other thing. When you think about bad diet, it's not the meat, it's what's around the meat, right? Is it 2 big pieces of processed white bread and sugar sauce, aka ketchup, and, you know, saturated fat, deep fried French fries,
right,
and a milkshake and a chocolate chip cookie, right?
Right.
So in that picture, any kind of benefit you're getting from the 75% water, 20% protein meat that's in the middle of there, you know, is kind of negated from all the other horrible crap that you ate on top of it.
Oh, sure. Of course.
Right? So that's not considered. So what they did as the study, which is why this falls apart, is they said, hey, this guy had a hamburger, red meat, and this person had a hot dog, meat, you know, and they died. Must have been the meat.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, yeah, that, you know, all right, here you go. Going off of that, it would be interesting. I mean, you're right. If, let's say you it's not hard. Let's say you find somebody who is like, I love hamburgers and hot dogs. Sure. I love French fries. I love blah, 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 all the stuff.
Hey, you found them. You're talking to them. It's
okay,
me.
So let's say you have that person, right? But then let's say you have somebody who's like, I love filet. Mm-hmm. And I love like steamed broccoli with it or whatever. You know, it's like, okay, I would love to do that case study where it's like, okay, for 1 year, your entire every meal is hamburger and French fries. And yours is broccoli and filet.
Right.
At the end of a year, you tell me who's going to be healthier. I mean,
right. Of course.
Right, but that's the thing. But is it the meat? Or is it what you just said? Is it all the bullshit that's surrounding
Exactly.
it? Right.
And you know what? You just nailed it. That's exactly the study that needs to be done. Right?
I mean, seriously.
But, yes. And it's not just 2 people. It's you need 1,000 people in your meat and broccoli group. And you need 1,000 people in your hamburger and fries group.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what you need.
I know.
And that study has partially been done here and there, but they don't want to release those results because they're non-conclusive. Because they don't confirm the bias that's already there.
I know.
You know?
Well, if anyone ever truly does it, I mean, I know it'll kill me if I have to do it for a year because I'll miss out on everything else, but I will volunteer for the filet and broccoli. I'll do it.
See, and that's one of the other barriers to truly proving this out is that it is hard to do studies on people.
Sure it is.
Because people like variety and they're not going to succumb to that. You know, nobody's going to last the year.
No.
It's going to be really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But then again, we should be able to break this down. We should be able to break this down into its components and show that that is not true. And from our best logical analysis of it, it shows. I mean, just starting back to the 75% water, 20% protein, 5% everything else.
Right. Carbohydrates and whatnot.
It's not bad for you. What do people in general, most times out of not, eat around their meat? They eat bad stuff around it. Okay.
Sure.
And they finish it off with something bad. The problem is most of the time the meat part of it is the least volume that you're eating, and other things that have been shown and proven in controlled studies is how protein satiates your appetite, satisfies your appetite, and carbohydrates and sugar don't do that.
No, they don't.
Which is the reason why you can eat an entire bag of potato chips.
Right.
Right? And it's the reason why you can eat, a bunch of fried rice or just fried rice, and then 20 minutes later you're hungry again.
Right.
Right? Because that those carbohydrates and sugars, they don't satisfy your hunger because your body really didn't want that. It really, at its core level, it doesn't want to just be full. It wants to be full of protein.
Right.
That's what it wants.
And you know what? Here, I do this all the time. If it's at home where I can get as much as I want, right?
Right.
Is if I sit down and I'm going to interchange, it can be, really I'm leaving out a bunch of proteins, but I'm going to focus on if either steak, pork. When I say pork, like chop or loin, something like that, not bacon.
Pork chop.
Right, turkey or chicken. Okay, if I have any of those, and one of my sides with it is mashed potatoes, right? Mm-hmm. Gravy or no gravy, but we'll say gravy because it's good. So if I have any of those, I'm one of these people where I do it religiously. I slice into my meat, I dig up a big fork full of potatoes, stab that meat and put it in together, right? And eat it, and that's what I do. And here's what happens. If I'm super hungry, let's say I have a huge ribeye, right? I'll go through that ribeye and I'll get a big, when I say scoop of potatoes, it's more like 3 scoops. Yep. And I'll eat all of those, and then let's say I have half the steak left. I'll go and slap 3 more scoops of potatoes on there, finish that off and the steak, and then I'm sitting there, and guess what? I'll still be able to go back and throw 3 more scoops of potatoes and just eat those by themselves.
Right.
Where I guarantee you, if there was another whole steak there, I wouldn't do it. I
couldn't eat the steak.
No.
Yep. And I went so I can do the same thing. Like, I always overcook my proteins because I want them, but then I can never really finish them. I always make 2 chicken breasts or 2 steaks or 2 pork, pork chops or pork loins, and I want them both. I'm going to eat them both.
Yeah.
And I might make nothing else but that. Like, I might steam some broccoli, a couple pieces of broccoli, just because it doesn't look weird to me, the only person there.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's that culturally pushed into me. Oh, why can't I just eat just pork or just steak or just chicken? But one thing is, I never make it through it all. And these aren't huge, giant portions. These are, a normal-sized chicken breast, a normal-sized steak.
Sure.
Not a giant porterhouse or something, or giant, I might get 2, medium-sized New York strips.
Okay,
not giant ones. And I'll be thinking to myself, I'm just going to eat those for dinner. 2 of them, I'm just going to eat that, and that's it.
Right.
And rarely do I make it through all of them, both.
Yeah.
And if I do, I feel super full.
Oh, yeah, you're ready for bedtime.
But I know that as a volume, I've eaten, dude, a large pan pie pizza before.
Uh-huh.
Right? Have you eaten a large pizza ever by yourself? Just eating the entire thing?
Yeah.
Right?
Of course.
That's 3 times the volume of 2 steaks.
Right.
Right? Yet, somehow, you can get it all in there.
That's right.
Now, you might feel horrible afterwards, but you can still do it.
That's true.
So imagine if you had that much steak, right? There's no way you could eat it all. Your body just, I guess you could force yourself to.
Yeah, you can make yourself.
But not like a pizza. Like pizza, you're rarely forcing yourself. You're like, I just want some more. Keep it coming.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely. It's weird that that's the way it is. Because I will say the only time with me that's different from an animal protein seemingly is with fish. Right. I can eat fish like a bag of chips. Like I could just keep eating fish.
Right.
I mean, and I don't know why. I guess because it is lower on the fat content.
It's different, right? Yeah, it's a different thing.
It just doesn't have as much fat to it. Mm-hmm. And the only other one is lamb. And the only reason I say that is because it's so expensive. I don't think I've ever had enough lamb where I could do that with. It's like,
right.
I mean, I just eat lamb chops, but they're small. So I don't know. Right. I haven't gone through a whole thing of lamb, but.
But it's different. But I think to me, it's like comparatively, that would be maybe something we could look at as a follow-up.
Sure.
Let's see, let's take a large pizza, just a regular large pizza, and let's calculate what the volume of that is. Right? And then have an equal amount of steak and see what that is.
Dude, all right, so here's what we can do at a later date.
Let's try to eat a steak pizza.
Well, I was going to say, or what we can do is we can do our own experiment. We can video it, right? So what we can do is when we get together, it's like, okay, we'll get somebody we know who's like pizza fanatic, right?
Right.
It's like, here, you're going to eat this whole pizza.
See, I don't know what team I would be on because I'm definitely a pizza fanatic too.
Okay, well then that could be yours.
I want to be on the meat team.
Well, okay. I'm just saying somebody's going to eat the pizza.
Damn.
Somebody's going to be nothing but steak. We'll just get whatever steak of their choice. We'll get 2 or 3 of them, and then somebody can just be like fish, and then if we want to throw a chicken or a pork or something in there, we'll do that, and then we'll just see, and we'll get enough where it's like. Eating, and be real. Like eat until you're satiated, not trying to like overindulge, and just see where it goes. I mean,
okay.
I guarantee you, the meat person's going to be done way before anybody else.
Yeah, I agree. So I have to be strategic about which one I want to be on.
I'll take any of them except the pizza.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. I don't want to.
Well, and I don't want to be the chicken if we have chicken. I'll do fish. I'll do steak. I'll do pork. Whatever we choose to do.
Yeah, and I don't think we should do chicken because I think chicken kind of is on the border with the fish piece. I don't think your body turns off like it does with red meat.
No, or pork.
Chicken and fish.
I think pork's the same way with red meat. I mean,
really?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I can eat more of it, but still not but so much.
Okay.
I mean, because look at it like this. If somebody sat me down and said, could you eat an entire pork loin? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could. Yeah. If they gave me a beef tenderloin, could you eat it? Hell no. But look at the size difference in the two as well. I mean...
But we're going to have to do it because we can't be hypocrites. We have to have the control.
Sure. I'll do it.
If we can't get enough people... See, because here's where we're going to run into the same problems, because... people are so different, right?
Right.
We both need to be in the control group, or we both need to be doing, different ones. I don't know. Just because it's so hard, because you run into people that are, I can't eat that much. Oh, I eat more than him, or I can't, whatever.
Okay, well, we can hammer that out, and then we can hammer it out, do the experiment, and when we do another podcast about it, we'll explain how we came to who's involved and how the experiment works. And what the results are. But either way, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I mean, I know for a fact that no matter what we throw in there, the person eating the steak is not going to be able to eat as much as anybody else. I know that.
Right. Yes, I agree.
And that's the point.
Equal weights and volumes of the food. That sounds like a cool thing to do. I'm excited to do that.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. The whole cultural thing, and I get it. I mean, I know this has been shoved down our throats for so long that all these things are bad. But, and then here you go, the old adage where people are like, well, does it taste that good? Or is that, it's got to be bad. Well, I call bullshit on that because
that's not true.
No. And let me give you some examples, especially within the last 5-10 years. Coffee. I hear all the time how coffee is so damn good for you. I don't know. Is it? I don't know. I mean, people seem to love it. I mean...
There's not good science on that. That's the thing. It's same kind of stuff. That's the problem, that the nutrition industry falls victim to this just as bad... look into that. Is coffee good for you?
They say it is.
Yes, but... Compared to what? I mean, good for you how?
Well, right. What are they? Right. What are they comparing it against? Right. But I'm just going off of if it tastes this good, it can't be good. And it's like for you. Well, what about wine? I mean, oh my God, you hear the same thing about wine.
Wine's
it's like
supposed to be good for you, right?
Well, red wine, right?
Yes.
I mean, but so yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Now, if somebody sits there and goes, "What about Snickers bars?" Okay, well, that I can argue against. I mean, you know, if at the very least, coffee and wine aren't going to rot the teeth out of your head as quickly as a Snickers bar is going to. I mean, so. But, and again, I think it's all bullshit. I mean, because it's almost like anything. It's like, and I'm not saying that there's no adverse reactions to having excessive red meat and fat. I'm not saying that. It's just like anything. I mean,
sure.
So, but
yeah,
I just
gluttony isn't good.
No, not at all.
And I remember the other thing is the sedentary lifestyle is also a big contributor to heart disease.
Absolutely.
So that's the other thing. You know, our ancestors, I mean, even 1 and 2 generations back are just more active. You know, you're running around, you're hunting, you're being chased. You know, you're burning up those calories and energy. You know, it doesn't settle into fat.
Right.
You know, people were lean. Like, you look at pictures of people from the 1800s in Native American.
Oh, sure.
Like, fat people were rare. Fat people were a novelty, you know? Yep. It was a circus act. You think they could have fat people in a circus now? You know?
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you don't need a circus to see fat people.
No.
You know? I mean, come on.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's just people were lean.
Well, I thought of something for those of you who don't know, and if you haven't checked her out. What's her name again? Who's the chick?
Nina Teicholz.
Nina, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
her book is The Big Fat Surprise.
Yeah. So one thing I will say is, and again, just so everybody knows, because that's one thing that it does insult my intelligence with, like, just human nature and the way people are.
Right. Is
I hope that just because I know it sounds like we're like all on board with what she's saying, and for the most part we are, at least, especially when it comes to like the nutritional stuff. But I do know that one of the things that she likes to point out is that once this really kicked into high gear, especially like, I know, like you said, it started late 60s, early 70s. But once it like really caught on, let's go into like 80s, right?
Oh, yeah, in the 80s. Yeah, that's when it started to get big, yep.
And let's take a look at like the obesity levels of people, right?
Right.
Okay, but see, here's the thing. So this is why I just want people to know, you still can't believe everything you hear, because most everything is still based off of a lot of opinion. So the way she puts it, kind of leans, helps lean toward what she's trying to put out, right? It's like, see, when the dietary supplements and the things that we're eating and everything changed, then people start getting fatter, okay? And I'm not saying that there's not truth to that, but what she's missing out in that equation is what you just said. It's no different than the whole thing like when you and I were children. We were outside as much as we could be, sure. playing. Nowadays, that's not the case. Kids are in the house, video games. So is it the diet or is it the sedentary lifestyle?
It's probably a combination of both, because I think it's because she does have a point. That's where I think it was, she said it was 1980 or 81 where they redid the health standards.
Right. The nutritional ladder.
Yes, got away from that. And the whole low sugar, low fat, less meat thing kicked in. Just, coincidentally at that time, that's when obesity rates going up. That's when cable TV and video games and all that started to kick in, big time.
Yep.
Right? Because if you think about it, what are you going to do? Hey, I used to have 3 channels with nothing on ever. Maybe once or twice a day,
right?
There might be something to be on, and you had to, you couldn't record it. So what were you doing the rest of the day? You were playing.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
But now you got 80 channels, with something on all the time. You're obviously going to watch TV more.
Oh God, the internet.
Yes, and you got Atari. You're obviously going to sit in front of that. Because I just remember when that hit. I just became glued to that. And you got all these things that kick in, and definitely, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And then the sugar content, and that's when, think about here, that's when also in the 80s we switched from regular sugar to high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because the most notable example is Coca-Cola.
Yep.
Coca-Cola switched from sugar to corn syrup. And good grief, you don't have to be a Harvard food scientist
right,
to figure out why did that happen, right? And the answer, money. The answer, lobbyists, the corn industry. How can we make more money in corn?
Right.
Because we can grow corn domestically way more than we can grow sugar. There's only certain parts of the United States that sugar actually grows, right?
Yep.
Because it's not tropical. It needs tropical environment. So fuck all those countries. Why are we importing sugar when we can just make it here ourselves chemically out of corn?
Yep.
And there you have it.
Well, and you know what? That I'd like to see a study on that, because again, so people don't think I'm poo-pooing everything, but we're sitting here talking about, what's worse, sugar or red meat and fat? Well, what's worse, sugar or fructose?
Isn't it the same thing?
No, natural sugar.
Oh, natural sugar. Oh, gotcha. Right.
Yeah, like the original Coke,
Oh, no, yeah, it's way better for you.
Right.
Again, it's not great for you, but
it's not as bad.
And it's not nearly as bad. Right, yeah.
Right.
I mean, apple has a bunch of natural sugar in it.
Oh, all fruits.
They're good for you. But you can't... But orange juice, Minute Maid orange juice, is not good for you.
No.
There's nothing good in it anymore. It's all just sugar.
I mean, look, anything like that. I mean, that's the thing. I think it's another fallacy. It's orange juice. Is it good for you? Okay. If you're looking at it as a whole, no.
Right.
I mean,
yes.
Can you say you're getting vitamin C? Sure. But okay, you're getting that.
Yep.
Okay.
But what you're not getting, what you're doing, you're deconstructing that orange. Because the way you're supposed to eat the orange, you're supposed to peel off the peel, right? Because that peel is there. It evolved there to protect the fruit, right? Because what happened over time, the reason we have oranges now, and this, don't even get me into GMO, because what we've done as humans, as we have genetically modified oranges through selection. Because what we did is we selected the ones that looked better and taste better and were juicier.
Right.
And had a thicker skin on them so they could last longer and protected the inside. Okay? So a natural orange today looks nothing like an orange from 100 years ago.
No.
Right? So but what you're supposed to do, so all that aside, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to eat the orange in the wedge, with the skin around it, right? Not the peel, but the skin, right? You're supposed to get that fiber and all that together. All that together is good for you.
Absolutely.
But the concentrated juice is not.
Right, it's sugar.
So
with vitamin C. That's what it is.
And then to swing us back to the meat piece, right?
Yeah.
So swing the meat.
All right, let's do it.
Yes. So the other thing is that there is a lot of credence when you're talking about how our meat is farmed today.
Oh, that's what I was just getting ready to say. Yep.
Versus more naturally occurring, and I'm going to shy away from the word organic, because organic has been co-opted.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
now a corporate thing that has nothing to do with organic anything anymore.
No, it's natural or it's wild. I mean, it's natural or it's farmed. That's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the thing is yes, if you go into a grocery store, a national grocery store, and you grab a piece of steak, that thing is not a natural occurring thing. It's full of all kinds of stuff.
Yep.
That's not good for you.
Well, you know what? Here's an easy one, I guess, for people, because the problem is with meat, it's harder to find that difference. But here's where I know the main focus is red meat, but just in general, going off this topic for farming, go into any store of quality, right, and pick yourself up just a small fillet of farm-raised salmon, farm-raised like Atlantic salmon, and then get a piece of like wild sockeye, and cook them both, and you tell me, not only in the taste, but I mean, one of them feels like, even when you're biting into it, it feels like this has just been stuffed up with junk. I mean, it's like
exactly.
But you can't do that with meat.
Yep. And another one. I know you hate chicken. Okay.
Yes.
But interesting observation. Okay. If you go back in the early 70s, late 60s, and you watch clips on YouTube of the Julia Child cooking show. Right? Because if you remember her back in the day, like The Art of Cooking, I think that was Julia Child, the lady from England. She was synonymous with the word cooking. Like, people, it was like a joke, like, oh, you think you are Julia Child? I mean, she was cooking.
Yeah, she was.
Like, I don't know who it is today. There's lots of celebrity chefs, but she was the first celebrity chef.
Yeah, there's too many today where that's all we had, right?
Exactly. So when you go back and look at one of her shows where she's roasting a chicken or making chicken, okay, chicken quarters, okay,
right,
chicken bone-in breast, there's no ingredients. She just puts salt and pepper on it. And that's pretty much it with vegetables, because it was still a real chicken.
Right,
that,
it had flavor.
Walked around and ate bugs and mice and little whatever it could forage for. You know, it kind of free-ranged around, and it tasted way better.
Of course it did.
Today, you know, the whole factory farming process has really taken our meat quality down, because these animals, in order to produce the amount of volume that, and I'm not going to say people require, I'm going to say grocery stores require, because look at how much stuff, you know, is wasted. You don't even have to, you can just stand there and see all this stuff is not going to be sold. Right?
Oh, right.
You have to factory farm these animals. And by not letting them move and breathe and live and walk and stretch and hunt and eat a variety of things, you know, then you're reducing the amount of value that they have, the amount of flavor they have, and the amount of, you know, and that example you gave of salmon is a great one.
I mean, I can't think of a stronger one because that's, with fish, it's one of the few things you can get farm and as easily get wild.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And same thing with, you know, the other thing is the maybe the beef example is a little bit of a bad example, because we engineer that beef for a specific taste.
Right.
You know, that fat that there. I mean, and I do have to say the ribeye, right, and the New York strip, to me, those are my two favorites because they have the fat in them. Makes it. It's the bacon effect. You know, the bacon, and bacon is the ultimate example of that.
Yes.
Right? People freak out over bacon. You know, people love fat so much, okay, that they dress up it like bacon for Halloween.
I know.
Okay, that's how much it's in us. We want it.
Well, and that's, you know, it's funny. And there's certain meats, like you said, like, and the thing is, not, and so people understand too, it's not all, you're getting fat within all of those proteins.
Yes.
But there's some proteins where the fat is just amazing. Like you said, like a ribeye, you're picking a ribeye out that has more fat. That's the best ribeye to pick out.
Right.
I mean, like I said, earlier when I was talking about eating like leg of lamb, oh my God, once I get through the meat, that fat that hangs off that bone, I eat that because it's like candy. I mean, it's good. Yeah. I mean, you know, now granted, some fat sucks. Like fat on a fillet is horrible. It's gristly. It sucks. Yep. I mean,
but the thing is, your body needs that fat. Okay, your body makes things out of the fat. It makes your arteries and parts of your brain and all, you know, it replenishes your vital organs with that fat. But our thing is we don't think of fat like our body uses fat. We think of fat like fat rolls hanging off of people, right? And that's not what we're talking about. Your body uses those natural fats in everything.
Yeah. And you know what? If you ate more natural fats, you'd lose more of those fat rolls.
Exactly. That's the thing, because it teaches your body, okay, we need to use this.
That's
not
right.
just store it all, because I'm not going to get just glucose.
Yep.
So there
God.
was, yeah, it's crazy. Yes, and then the only other thing is I want to talk a little bit about eggs.
Let's do it.
Because eggs also fall victim to this bad science and this cholesterol just propaganda.
Right.
When in actuality, honestly, there are ads that I've seen out on eggs. Like, I don't see a lot of beef, ads saying, hey, beef isn't that bad for you. You just see beef ads every once in a while. But there were ads out a few years ago that just say egg, quite possibly nature's perfect food.
Well, there was beef, what's for dinner?
Yeah, beef, what's for dinner? Right, exactly. Yes.
But no, I got you with the egg. Well, no, let's get into the egg, because that drives me crazy too.
Because that's another thing. Eggs, they have this thing where eggs, well, they suffer from the thing like cholesterol is bad for you.
Right.
Right? And it's not. That's the thing. And the egg, like taking the yolk out of an egg, I mean, that's you're taking all the nutrition out.
Right. Really, that's the thing. With an egg white, I mean, I guess, here's how I look at the egg white. When they're like, well, it's healthy for you. Or it should instead be, it's not harmful to you.
I guess.
Well, I mean, because it's not harmful to you, but it's also not necessarily that much more health. We know it's actually less healthy than the yolk. I mean, so it's not harmful. The egg white to me is like water. It's like, it's fine. It's fine. It's not going to hurt you. It's something to put in your stomach. That's about it. I mean,
right. Well, you're supposed to mix it in there together. It's actually the egg. I think the white, is a part of the food source, like the yolk is.
Sure.
It's part of what helps the yolk form, and if the egg gets fertilized, then the yolk, feeds the fetus, and then the egg white is the final food for the fetus, and almost like a shock absorber, I think, is what mostly the egg white is for.
Right.
But one of the things I've recently switched to, because I used to be, I used to just be grab the grocery store brand extra large eggs.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So I went, and for whatever reason, they only had like 2 cartons left of the ones I normally get, and both were like gross and broken and old looking. So I grabbed the cage-free eggs. Okay. And I paid like $2 more for them, and I brought them home. And I have friends that have given me eggs before, so I've had like natural eggs also.
Right.
And then I'd recently heard Joe Rogan talking about his chickens and how he loves it because his egg yolks are like orange.
Oh, yeah.
So I cracked these things open, and it's exactly that. They're like orange. The yolks are orange. Man, and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make myself some scrambled eggs, but I'm not going to put anything in them. I'm not going to put any salt. I'm not going to put any pepper. Not even going to put any butter. So I just put the littlest bit I took canola oil and just put a dot on there just so they wouldn't stick to the pan.
Sure.
That's all I did. And I made those eggs, and they were fucking delicious. They were great, just on their own with nothing.
Yeah.
And so now I have not gone back. Now I'm all cage-free eggs.
Dude.
And I did a little bit more looking. They are not vegetarian. They are, they get a mix. They get protein. They get animal protein, these eggs. So they are not
good.
They are not vegan chickens.
Good.
Chickens don't want that anyway. Chickens want to eat animals.
Right.
So.
Or bugs or whatever they eat.
Bugs, yeah, but still, that's an animal.
That's protein.
Meat,
sure.
and they eat worms.
Yep.
And it's good. I like that my chickens eat worms. I want to eat the worm that the chicken ate through its egg.
It might have been it might have been you.
I love that.
I can't remember who I was talking to, but we were talking about fresh, eggs, and
yes,
I forget who it was. Whoever it was, they were dead on, because I agree, they're amazing. And someone had told me it's almost like when you fix them, if you're making like an omelet, it's like if you make them with that and you're eating it, it's almost like you feel like you're tasting the cheese that was put in there, but no cheese was put in there.
Right.
It's like that good. It's that flavorful. It's and that's dead on. It's amazing.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great.
And now I'm just, that's all I'm going to buy. But because they're fantastic, and I think it's the same way with meat. So I went to this restaurant, and I got the grass-fed strip steak. Okay. And while it was different, obviously, in a lot of ways from a factory-farmed, GMO'd steak, it was still fantastic.
Sure.
And it was really, really good. And it's a little bit different than what I was, it was more like when I'm thinking of like the New York strip I'm really, to me, it's like a bacon thing for me, It's like I wanted Pittsburgh rare. That's how I like to get my steaks, where they're like charred up real good, but just past rare. They just hit medium rare on the middle. That, to me, that's one of perfect.
Okay.
Right? But the grass-fed one, I just got it medium rare, not charred, just cooked, broiled, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm so over. I mean, the egg. I mean, it's those four for me. It's red meat, the egg, butter, and whole milk.
Yes.
Drives me nuts. Whole milk is amazing. I mean, I love whole milk.
Yep.
And all that other stuff is like, I mean, honestly, I drink skim milk. I'm like, so you're drinking white water is what you're drinking.
Right.
I mean, what are the nutrients in that at that point?
Nothing. And the pasteurized stuff, like that's the other thing. That's where I get on this thing about organic. So I go to the grocery store and I look at the organic milk where I shit you not, the expiration date is a month and a half away.
Right.
And I'm like, what organic anything, okay, if it's dead, because that milk is dead.
Right.
Okay?
Is it right?
Milk is dead,
yep.
Right? A piece of food you buy in a store is dead, okay? So what thing can last a month and a half, right?
Right.
Nothing. So to call that milk, number one, is an injustice. And to call it organic is just idiotic.
Right. It's just wrong.
Right? Because you're pasteurizing it.
Right.
What pasteurization occurs organically in the world? Zero.
None. Right.
Zero. Right? I guess technically if you break down pasteurization into a chemical thing, I guess, like volcanoes pasteurize the lava or whatever, whatever.
Right.
But what food naturally, organically pasteurizes itself? Nothing.
I know.
Right? But then, okay, so milk. Milk is a weird thing. We could do a whole podcast on milk because there's all kinds of controversial theories on why we drink milk from cows. Because if you think about it, it's really weird that we do that.
As opposed to like what, goats?
No, as opposed to humans. Because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to drink it from a human, not another animal. Because think about it. What other animal does that? We're the only ones. No, like goats don't go over to drink the cow milk, and cows don't drink the goat milk, right? And the chimpanzees don't drink the gorillas,
right?
Or go find a llama,
right?
You know, they drink their moms, and that's it. It's just weird,
right? Okay.
And I think the prevailing theory is this hardships that humans have gone through, like famines, right, and other nomadic type behavior, you know, drove us to rely on milk as sustenance from cows because it's there.
Sure.
And then it just builds and it becomes, you know, baked into the culture.
Wow. Well, you know what? Now that you say that, I just thought I think I'm gonna start a business.
Human milk?
I mean, think about it. People give their kids up for adoption, right? And they get paid for it, right? It's like, I'm giving my child for adoption. It's like, well, you've already established now that you've got milk in your boobs. So I'm going to take your milk and I'm going to sell that, and I'm going to milk it right from you, put it in glass bottles, and take it to someone's house.
All right. So I hate to burst your bubble. But it is already an industry, but it is an emerging industry. So you're still early in the market.
It's all how I brand it.
Yes. It was on Curb Your Enthusiasm this past. He goes to a human milk store.
Wow. Awesome.
Yes. You should Google it.
I will.
Yes. Because that's the thing. Like, you would think that we really should be drinking human milk.
Right. As weird as that is, yes. Because, I mean, well, yeah. And, you know, you're right. We'll have to do a whole other thing on milk.
It's a weird thing, right?
It's a weird
thing that we drink milk into our adulthood, because really, if you think about it, other animals, they stop. After they're babies, after they break away from their mother, they don't drink milk anymore.
Well, and also, I guess it's
water.
It's the social stigma. Because I got to be honest with you, it's like, thinking about that, yes, in theory makes sense. But socially, how we have developed, I mean, and I get it, our children do, right? And I, as having them, you know, it's like, I was always adamant. It's like, no, breastfeeding, it's better. And it's been proven to be better, right?
Yes.
So I was all for it. But that's for my kids. It's not, I don't want it, you know? Because I remember Lonnie, he asked me one day when I think we had just had Spencer. He's like, do you like it? I'm like, do I like what? And he's
your friend Lonnie and your daughter Spencer.
Yes. Right. And so my friend Lonnie asked if I liked it, and I was like what? And he's like, the milk. I'm like, what milk? And he's like, you know, the milk from your wife. I'm like, I have no idea. Are you kidding me? I'm not.
Wow, he drank his own wife's breast milk?
Absolutely. He loved it. Wow. He said it was. He goes, and it grossed me out. Right. But now thinking about what you just said, because he's like, oh no, man, it was really sweet. It was this, and it's no different. You drink a cup of skim milk and a cup of whole milk, and whole milk. If you haven't had whole milk in a while, and then you go back to it, it does taste sweet. It's like, wow, this is good. I mean,
and the other thing, just to keep in mind, that's not raw milk, right?
Right.
Breast milk is raw, so that you can still get raw milk, but in some places it's illegal. Raw milk from raw cow milk is illegal. Because they don't want you milking your own cows. They want you buying your milk through the main process. And
of course, as industry goes, that makes sense. Now, I don't know how they're going to fight me when I start like drinking people milk, because it's like,
Well, no, I'm sure there's some regulatory crap that you're gonna have to do, but it's done in California and Oregon. Portland and California both have human milk places. Because I think the industry kind of sprung up. Because of women that wanted breast milk for their kids, but weren't able to produce it. Either they were too old or they just had some issue.
Gotcha.
You know, whatever. It's a thing. So we have GMO'd those cows. You know, a dairy cow and a beef cow are two different things, right?
Right, absolutely. Yep, they are.
Yeah, and you know, even if you go look at stories and you hear tales, you know, of old Betsy the milk cow, they rarely ate the milk cow.
Sure.
Because it was done. There was no good meat on the milk cow.
Right.
So it's just weird that we drink milk. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I mean, these days.
No,
maybe it did, you know.
It doesn't. But
Yeah.
Back to my point, if you're going to drink milk, as weird as it may be, now that you brought that up, I'm still going with whole milk.
Yeah, sure.
I don't care whose milk it is. I'll go with whole milk from a cow, a goat, a person, whatever. I'm going whole milk, whatever, however I go. So,
okay, cool.
Wow,
yes, human milk would be whole milk.
Yeah, it's going to be whole, all right.
It wouldn't.
Damn.
You wouldn't want to skim it off because you're going to need as much as you can get. I'm sure.
Yeah, of course.
All right.
God.
So we're like at an hour and 15 minutes on the meat fallacy.
Yes.
And I feel like we've only just kind of scratched the surface, but
well, yeah, and you're right, we have. I mean, I guess here's the thing, like, well, because breaking it down, it's like we were saying in the beginning. It's when we say meat, red meat is what gets the stigma. So that's what it is.
Yes.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's all animal protein is what.
Yes.
I think is, I mean, and there are levels of that where some are higher in nutrients than others, but either way, all of them are better off than, you know, the sugars and the
sure
carbohydrates that a lot of diets, you know, people want to go on. It's just it's crap. I mean,
yep. And so I think the main things we want to hit are the points we kind of want to reiterate is the current stigma of meat is bad for you. Meat causes heart disease.
right.
Is all of that social norm, and almost now you could almost call it rhetoric, because it is not based on anything but opinion. The science behind it does not hold up to scrutiny.
Right.
And those are the facts. And there are actually studies that have been suppressed that show the opposite or are either non-conclusive.
Right.
So that's where we are, and it's one of these things that's going to be really hard to come to a final word on definitively, because our only test subjects are humans.
Right.
And then you get into ethics too hard to actually do a rigorous controlled test.
That's true. And that will always be the problem. And
Yep.
that's it.
But all right.
Well, that sucks.
No, I mean, and it does seem like, all right, sorry, before we wrap. So one of the things that I did like that Nina Teichels did say is that the paradigm is starting to shift, where more and more, and again, it's kind of that as the scientists die off that have held these firm beliefs that they can't change at the risk of their own reputation and money and salary and livelihood.
Right.
As newer, younger nutritionists and scientists in the nutrition industry come, into their prime time as, in their careers, it's becoming less and less based on that. It's actually, hey, we need to have fact-based,
right,
evidence-based policies and evidence-based health guidelines, not ones that are not based on evidence, which is where we seem to be.
Right.
So
I encourage anybody who's just not hardcore vegan or vegetarian, the next time you have the chance, go get a nice ribeye with lots of fat in it, and you tell me how you feel after you eat it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You bring that up, that's another thing, and it's that, I think they call it the diving board effect, right?
Okay.
Here's the analogy. When you jump in a pool off the diving board the first time, you're dry and then you jump in a pool. It's a huge sensation and it's awesome and it feels great, right? But then after 20 minutes, you normalize to the water right? And it's not so great anymore. And you get out and jump in again, you don't have that sensation anymore. Okay?
Right.
That is what some folks, and Nina Teicholz also said, because she was a vegetarian for 20 years.
Yep.
The lady that is now the biggest mouthpiece of meat is not bad for you. She was a vegetarian for 20 years. And she says that she witnesses this quite a bit. When people change to vegetarianism, they feel better, right? Because in general, most of them were eating like shit before. And so, because you're eating that thing, that all goes back to that same thing. What are you eating with the meat? You're eating the bread and the high sugars and everything, all the stuff that causes that crash and burn kind of feeling day to day. And when you switch to veganism or vegetarianism, a lot of times you drop a lot of that junk that you were eating.
Sure.
And then you get a boost just from that.
Of course.
And your body shifts into, oh man, and your body starts to burning its fat stores, and you feel better because that's naturally what you're supposed to do anyway.
Yeah.
But then look at it long term. Look how people feel long term on that, and it usually takes a nosedive.
Yep.
So, and I'm sure people are going to debate that. Yeah, no. But before you start freaking out over being a vegetarian, how long have you been one? Right? And how strict are you on it? And what do you have to supplement to really, truly, be where you are? So,
well, all right. Well, anybody like that, if they're gonna, feel free to argue with me, because if you're a vegetarian, and I would love the vegetarian who's never had meat before, because you can't argue it. Because at least if I can tell you this, I eat both. I eat all of it.
Yep.
You don't, so you don't know.
Right. There's very few people like that, but I get it. But what I'm not arguing about right now is the ethics behind factory farming, because that's a new thing.
Oh, sure.
I'm on board with that. Me too. I don't have a solution for it, and I am part of the problem. I eat factory farm meat. I do it.
Of course.
And I freely admit it, and it's bad and it's wrong. And I've switched to cage-free eggs, and I'm probably going to switch to cage-free chicken because of the thing I told about Julia Childs. I want some more heirloom chicken. I want stuff that's treated more humanely.
Right. Well, you can do it a little bit. I mean, chickens, obviously, they really get the raw end of the deal because they are treated like shit.
Oh, they're the worst. But they must have done something bad to God.
Yeah, they are the worst. But like you said, you can get free-range chickens. You can get grass-fed beef. I said, you can get real wild fish. Yeah. I mean, you can, if you want to eat proteins, animal proteins, you can start getting the real good stuff. I mean, so...
Yeah, man, I had this heirloom. I had an heirloom pork loin at this place in Charlotte like 2 weeks ago. And it was amazing.
That sounds good.
It was great. And they're like, this is not marinated. It's not, it's just there's farm, and they have this, bloodline of pigs that goes back 100 years, and they're basically like they have a little picture of them of one on the menu, and it's all like wild boar looking. It's not boar, but it's all farrow looking. The pigs they're not a boar, but you can tell, man, that's not a pink pot-bellied pig,
right?
So
damn, I'd like to try that.
Oh, it was good. It was really good.
I bet.
So okay, well, cool. Meat's not bad for you.
No,
it's water. It's protein,
and it's good.
And it's good. Yes, awesome. Perfect. All right. So, I'm Bo.
I'm Jerry.
And this has been Don't Insult My Intelligence. Meat is not bad for you.
There you go.
Later.
All right, see ya.